You've no doubt heard by now that a friend of Barack Obama, Henry Gates, who is a professor at Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, was arrested for disorderly conduct. This is the actual arrest report I'm showing you here. The arresting officer states on the report, on Thursday, July 16, 2009, Henry Gates, Jr. of Ware Street, Cambridge, Massachusetts, was placed under arrest at Ware Street after exhibiting loud and tumultuous behavior in a public place directed at a uniformed police officer who was present investigating a report of a crime in progress. These actions on the behalf of Gates served no legitimate purpose and caused citizens passing by this location to stop, take notice while appearing surprised and alarmed. Also, on a supplemental report by another officer, it states on July 16, 2009, at approximately 12:44 p.m., I, Officer Figueroa, badge number 509, responded to an ECC broadcast for a possible break-in on Ware Street. When I arrived, I stepped into the residence and Sergeant Crowley had already entered and was speaking to a black man. As I stepped in, I heard Sergeant Crowley ask for the gentleman's information, and he stated, "No, I will not." The gentleman was shouting out that the sergeant was a racist and yelled, "This is what happens to black men in America." As the sergeant was trying to calm the gentleman shouted, "You don't know who you're messing with." As I stepped out to gather the information from the reporting person, who stated to me that she saw a man wedging his shoulder into the front door as to pry the door open. As I returned to the residence, a group of onlookers was now on the scene. The sergeant, along with the gentleman, was now on the porch and again was shouting now to the onlookers that this is what happens to black men in America. The gentleman refused to listen as to why the Cambridge police were there. While on the porch, the gentleman refused to be cooperative, and he continued shouting that the police sergeant was a racist police officer. So these are the facts that are presented in the arrest report. Barack Obama was asked for his take on it at the end of his press conference, which was supposed to be devoted to health care. And, of course, Barack Obama admitted that he was biased in this, that Henry Gates is a friend of his, but then he went on to say that the police actions were stupid. Well, what you can see from the police report, it was actually the actions of his friend, Henry Gates, that were stupid. They were investigating a crime, and he refused to present his ID to them and started charging them with racism when they were simply there investigating a reported crime. Here you can listen to Obama's reaction, and then I've got another clip following that with the local news take on it. Thanks for listening.
Recently, Professor Henry Louis Gates, Jr. was arrested at his home in Cambridge. What does that incident say to you, and what does it say about race relations in America?
Well, I should say at the outset that Skip Gates is a friend, so I may be a little biased here. I don't know all the facts. What's been reported, though, is that the guy forgot his keys, jimmied his way to get into the house. There was a report called into the police station that there might be a burglary taking place. So far, so good, right? I mean, if I was trying to jigger into, well, I guess this is my house now, so it probably wouldn't happen. But let's say my old house in Chicago. Here I'd get shot. But so far, so good. They're reporting. The police are doing what they should. There's a call. They go investigate what happens. My understanding is, at that point, Professor Gates is already in his house. The police officer comes in. I'm sure there's some exchange of words, but my understanding is that Professor Gates then shows his ID to show that this is his house. And at that point, he gets arrested for disorderly conduct, charges which are later dropped. Now, I don't know, not having been there and not seeing all the facts, what role race played in that, but I think it's fair to say, number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police acted stupidly in arresting somebody when there was already proof that they were in their own home. And number three, what I think we know separate and apart from this incident is that there is a long history in this country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately. And that's just a fact. As you know, Lynn, when I was in the state legislature in Illinois, we worked on a racial profiling bill because there was indisputable evidence that blacks and Hispanics were being stopped disproportionately.
I want to talk a little bit more about the situation surrounding Professor Henry Gates and how much national attention this is now getting. Last night, President Obama held a nationally televised press conference, and he was asked about the situation surrounding Professor Gates. About the situation, the president said he didn't know all the details, but he felt that the Cambridge police had acted stupidly in this situation.
Yeah, I think the president left out a lot of details that were put in the police report. It made it seem like that Gates was showed his ID and got arrested anyway. And of course, we know around here that's not the case according to the officer, the arresting police officer. But even that, VB, to go from saying I don't know all the facts in the case to concluding that the Cambridge police acted stupidly is a really huge leap, especially coming from the President of the United States.
If he had it to do over again, I can almost guarantee you Obama at least would have chosen different words. There are Biden blunders, and then there are really bad blunders. Biden blunders make us laugh. This blunder by Obama, this is inflammatory, inciting, and just, if anyone acted stupidly, it was Obama last night. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what possible good comes from him saying this. The role of president is generally to act as peacemaker. Was this presidential? Was this peacemaker-like last night? This is crazy. The more I think about it, the more stunned I am that he said this.
Bibi, I can't imagine under any circumstances the president should have made comments about this, period. Number one, he is the professor's friend. That in and of itself should keep him from making any kind of comments about this. Even if he had been standing there and heard this, I just can't imagine as the president of the United States, he should be making comments about this on national television. And this is just not something the president needs to get involved in.
And this was a primetime news conference on healthcare reform, and this is the one non-healthcare reform question at the end of the news conference that was asked. I just
can't imagine why he would have
And he took
ever responded.
3.5 minutes or whatever. I mean, it wasn't like he glossed over it. He took a good 3-4 minutes to answer the question.
He's bringing where you're trying to calm the waters now. Not only is he stirring the pot, but he's throwing gunpowder into it. I can guarantee you the right today is going to make the point on talk radio that, this is a guy, Obama, who, when presented with all this evidence that Reverend Wright was a racist, said, hey, I'm not going to rush to judgment, and I'm going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. This is the same guy who now says, I don't have the facts here, but the Cambridge cops acted stupidly. It doesn't make any sense. This was a real big mistake by the president.
And most of the coverage I've seen on national cable shows where they've discussed this issue, they have taken the same approach that the president has and basically said this guy was arrested in his house. He showed his ID, they arrested him anyway. And again, that's not what happened. Although we don't really know what happened, the police report has something else entirely. And to balance it out, you've got to say, well, according to the police report, this is what happened. But Professor Gates is saying this is what happened.
Yeah, that battle's almost been lost already, where the history is going to show that Gates was wrong, the cop was racist, and that's how this went down. Yeah. People around will know that there was a different side to it, but that's how it's going to be written. Regardless of that, he's the president of the United States, and makes it 100-fold more egregious than if I or you said the Cambridge cops acted stupidly. This was totally irresponsible.
Well,
by
I keep
him.
going back to the same thing. This is his friend, which was just made the whole thing so tainted in and of itself. Is he commenting about things that are happening locally at every press conference? The answer is no.
And again,
he
they
should
picked
never
these
have gotten
questions.
himself involved in
I mean,
this.
he knew this was coming. He wanted to
We can
talk
have a
about it,
debate back and
obviously.
forth about